Thank you, Senator Murray. My friend Senator Kennedy is next.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't know any fair-minded person that wants us to default on America's debt. You don't have to be Mensa material to understand that the consequences would be terrible. And I want to thank President Biden for agreeing to meet with the Speaker. I thought he should have done it sooner. You can only be young once, but you can always be immature. And I thought he was being a trifle immature. I hope he'll negotiate in good faith. Please, 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 Mr. President, negotiate in good faith. Please, with sugar on top. I don't think you want to be responsible for defaulting on America's debt. I believe you're better than that. Mr. Riedl, let me ask you a couple of questions. Did you know that since the 1950s we have had 10 periods of disinflation in America? Did you know that?
Did not have that exact number, but that makes sense.
Okay, and disinflation is when inflation is too high and we have to reduce the rate of growth of inflation. It's not deflation where prices go down. We just reduce the rate of growth. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And did you know that if you look at history, at all 10 of these times when we had to reduce inflation, that in order to get inflation down 2%, we had to raise, on average, the Federal Reserve had to raise interest rates such that it raised unemployment about 3.6%. Did you know that?
That sounds similar to what Mr. Summers has said. He's made similar points. That sounds very correct.
Okay. All right. So the current unemployment rate is 3.5%, is it not?
Yes.
And the current inflation rate is 5%, is it not?
Approximately, yes.
So if history tells us in order to get inflation down 2%, the Federal Reserve has to raise interest rates such that it increases unemployment 3.6%, then if you do the math, given that the current unemployment rate is 3.5% and the current inflation rate is 5%, that would indicate, would it not, that the Federal Reserve, if history is any indication, will probably have to eventually raise interest rates to between 7 and 8%. Is that correct?
It could have to go that high depending on how the economy responds to current rate hikes.
Okay. Now, can we agree that the best way to get inflation down is to attack it on the fiscal side and the monetary side?
Absolutely.
Okay.
The Federal
We
Reserve
can
has
agree
one
on that?
tool, which is
We
to
can agree on
grind
that?
the economy into a recession.
Okay, we can agree on that. And when you attack it on the monetary side, the Federal Reserve raises interest rates. It's trying to slow the economy. It doesn't want to, but the way you measure the slowing of the economy is the unemployment rate. When you attack it on the fiscal side, you reduce your rate of growth of spending and debt accumulation. Did I describe that right?
You did.
So is it not the case that if you vote against slowing the rate of growth of spending and debt accumulation, you're voting to raise interest rates even higher, are you not?
Generally, I would agree with that approach, with that viewpoint. Yes.
I mean, that's just basic economics 101, right?
Right. The Federal Reserve's tool is.
I mean, that's something Senator Portman taught you, didn't he? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. All right. Let me ask a couple more questions. Mm-hmm. So, putting aside all the politics here, we're talking about people's lives. If we don't reduce the rate of growth of spending and debt accumulation, Jay Powell's going to do what he's got to do to get control of inflation. And he's going to keep raising rates. And that's going to put people out of work. He doesn't want that. But if he has to raise rates to between 7 and 8%, then that could put 6, 7, 8 million people out of work. Dr. Zandi, I have to ask you this. You made some pretty bold predictions today. And some of them I agree with and some of them I don't. But were you at Moody's in the mid-2000s when Moody's graded a lot of these mortgage-backed securities, AAA and A, good as gold, that promptly tanked and almost dragged down the world economy? Were you there then?
No,
or was that before your time?
It was before my time. I sold my company to Moody's in late '05.
I'm glad you missed that.
Yeah.
If you were there, I hope. Let me ask you.
And actually, if you're interested, I can send you a couple studies I did at the time that you would
That'd be
find
great.
very interesting.
I wish you'd Moody's had them then.
Yeah.
Ms. I can't see your name. I can't see.
Hopper.
Ms. Hopper. Ms. Hopper, I love solar energy. I just want you to know that. And I love electric cars. But I got to ask you this question. I've been waiting to ask this. If electric cars are so swell, how come government has to pay people to drive them?
So I think, as like most government policies, right, are put in place to incent certain behaviors, and so that's part of the policy is that if we want more electric
But if they're
cars,
so swell, why couldn't they, just in a competitive market, people, why wouldn't they be choosing electric cars over internal combustion engine cars?
I think
Why do we have to pay people to drive them?
But I wouldn't characterize it as paying people to drive them, but I would.
Well, sure we are. We're
I would
giving a big old
characterize
tax
it
credit.
as the government having a policy to incent more purchase of electric vehicles.
Okay.
Senator
I'm out of
Stabenow.
time. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.